I worked in a Foot Locker outlet a few years back. The store owner was a selfish, cranky old man who treated the employees like shit. But because the pay was good enough, no one dared to answer back to him. Everyone was quite habituated with his temper and tried their best not to make Mr. Banter mad, except for Cam. Cam was short for Cameron, and he joined a few days after me. Though he never answered back to Mr. Banter, he often made foolish mistakes. Every day at work, Mr. Banter screamed at him, "You are one stupid moron, Cameron. If I was your dad, I would have regretted not abandoning you the day you were born." I used to watch him get insulted and humiliated like shit, yet never say a single thing or even raise his head to look at Mr. Banter's face. I kept telling him to be more attentive, but at times he kind of ruined things intentionally. He used to get distracted a lot and drop shoes while arranging them on the shelf. Once a high-priority client came in, Mr. Banter asked him to bring coffee for the client. While handing the coffee to the customer, he accidentally slipped and spilt it all on her clothes. Mr. Banter got embarrassed and the customer gave him an earful. We all thought that would be the last day for Cam to work here, but Mr. Banter didn't fire him. Instead, he did a pretty cruel thing. He made him mop the floors, clean the already clean shelves, and also made him work a free night shift. He knew how to torture us. A few days went by and Cam still didn't improve in his job. Mr. Banter gave him a final warning one Wednesday, and still, Cam messed up. It was a busy Monday and we got an important delivery for a local sports team. I was making the receipts while Cam did the boxing. Mr. Banter roamed the store, keeping a strict eye on us. Everyone was working quietly when all of a sudden, Cam slipped and grabbed a shelf nearby to stop himself from falling. But the glass shelves couldn't hold his weight and shattered into pieces. "You dog! You are not going to ruin my store! Bloody hell!" Mr. Banter ran towards him while he was still lying on the floor, surrounded by broken glass. Instead of helping him get up, he unbuckled his leather belt and started beating Cam mercilessly. "I will teach you a lesson today." He kept whipping Cam. With every strike, he yelled, "This is what you get for drowning the brand name." We were all stunned in horror as we watched Cam bear the beatings without letting out a single painful scream. After beating him for 10 minutes straight, Mr. Banter kicked him in the stomach and said, "Get out of here. Out!" Cam was shaking. He got up somehow. His lips were bleeding, and he had bruises all over his body. He slowly lifted his head and looked at Mr. Banter for the first time. His eyes were wide and filled with burning anger. He left the store limping in pain. I wanted to report this incident to the cops, but Mr. Banter had a lot of connections that got him out of trouble quite easily, so I didn't. But now I wish I did. We made the delivery, and I submitted the receipt to Mr. Banter and left. I was standing near the bus stop waiting for my ride when I realized I had forgotten my phone in the Foot Locker store. I headed back to get it, and that's when the nightmare began. The streets were empty and drowning in silence when I reached the store. Even though the lights were on, something felt weird to me. I entered the store and saw it was stranded. Mr. Banter was nowhere to be found. I was about to call out his name when I heard a spine-chilling scream. It was Mr. Banter's voice coming from the basement. The basement of this store is used for storage. I tiptoed to the basement. As I walked down the stairs and peeked in, I saw the most frightening sight of my life. Mr. Banter was tied to a chair, and Cam was standing beside him. He had a sickly grin on his face. "Look, I'm sorry. I know I mistreated you, but you don't have to do this, Cameron. Please, let me go. I'll pay you as much as you want." "You can't pay me in money, Mr. Banter, because I don't want your money." "Then what do you want? I'll give you whatever you say. Tell me, just tell me." I want to show you how much I value this brand. I will show you how much I have improved in my work. What? What are you saying? Cam turned around and started to walk towards the toolbox placed on the corner table. Mr. Banter went on pleading to him, but he didn't care. He took something from the toolbox, and I could hear a metallic clank. My heartbeat got faster. I was sweating out of tension, thinking of what was going to happen next when Cam said, "Come in, Joshua. You can watch this." My blood froze hearing my name from his mouth. How the hell did he know? He turned around, and I saw he was holding a nail gun. He smiled at me in a very disturbing way and pointed out to a chair nearby. I didn't want to piss him off because, at that moment, I felt Cam could do anything. Anything. I nervously walked down to the chair and sat down. Mr. Banter yelled at me. "Call the cops! Help me, Joshua! Cam is out of his mind!" Oh, he is out of his mind? What about you? The way you treat all of your employees. You had this coming, Mr. Banter. I don't know why my suppressed anger kicked in, and I, too, wanted to watch Mr. Banter suffer. Maybe my mind was equally twisted as Cam's, but I didn't stop to call the cops even after what he did to Mr. Banter. Cam walked to him and took off Mr. Banter's shoes. He then made him wear a new pair from our store and looked at him. "You know what's funny, Mr. Banter?" "Cam, please, let me go. I promise. The brand name is Foot Locker, and I will lock these pairs to your feet forever." Saying this, he started to fire the nail gun ruthlessly on Mr. Banter's feet. The speedy nails came out of the gun and pierced into Mr. Banter's skin, flesh, bones, whatever came in their way. Blood came out like a fountain. Some even splashed on Cam's face, but he didn't stop. He smiled while smearing Mr. Banter's blood on his face. Mr. Banter screamed in pain, and I don't know why his scream felt like music to my ears. When he passed out from the agony, Cam looked at me and said, "I'll call the cops now. You should leave. I don't want to drag you into this." He raised his hand, aiming at Mr. Banter's forehead, and shot the nail gun for one last time. Unconscious, Mr. Banter didn't get to scream. A sound of his skull and brain matter splashing echoed one last time. Then everything got dead silent. I came home that night, and Cam willingly surrendered himself to the cops. He's about to go on trial for Mr. Banter's murder. All of the Foot Locker employees have decided to speak for him. Let the court know what kind of person our boss was. I hope he receives fewer sentences. Call me crazy, cruel, or whatever you want. I'm happy that Mr. Banter is dead. That jerk had it coming. This happened in Sacramento, California. It was around 2 a.m. I was at a friend's house, safe and warm, sheltered suburbia. We were having a lot to drink, chit-chat, enjoying ourselves. Of course, when you're having fun, time hits the fast-forward button, and those few minutes turn into an hour. I had too much to drink. My friend has a bit of an abrupt bedtime, so I had to dodge out early, still intoxicated. I felt too shameful thinking I'd be asking too much to stay in his house to sleep off the drunkenness. I suppose he was either too rude or too drunk to consider it himself. Sometimes a little inconvenience makes you appreciate everything else. I needed about another hour or so to sober up and drive back. As fast as time passed during my stay, it decided to drastically slow down as soon as I stepped out of his house. It was a concrete jungle with the stem of the street breaking into a fork. Along the side of the road, my car was parked. The only streetlight that worked was about 80 yards away. I stumbled towards my car, produced my keys, felt the metal lineup, opened my door, and got in. I stared at the empty highway ahead and started the engine when a night bird pooped on my windshield. I think it was a crow, but I'm not sure. Anyways, I knew a gas station where they provided manual car washing facilities. You have to do it yourself. So I started the car, drove to the gas station in about 10 minutes, and stopped in front of the soap water outlet. The gas station was stranded. I could see the man inside sleeping on his desk from the big glass window. I got out and took off my jacket. I threw it at the back seat and then picked up the water pipe hanging by the outlet. Twisting the tap fixed to its head, I started to wash my car. The sound of gurgling water coming out of the pipe echoed on the highway. It's been a minute or two when, in the distance, I could hear footsteps. The gravel scuffled with each step forward, growing in proximity, but periodically taking stops. I noticed a shadowy figure luring out of the dark and had a gun in his hand. My sixth sense kicked in. I stopped doing everything and slowly got into the back seat of my car. I carefully locked all the doors and rolled up the back seat window. I thought if I hide in the back, the man will just walk past. I had no weapon, so it would have been stupid to face this man unarmed. 2-3 cars were standing outside the gas station, which seemed abandoned. The footsteps started to slow down suddenly. I wondered why, until it made sense in my mind. Whoever it was probably looking through cars carefully, with the intent to steal one. I counted 3 full stops until he approached my window. There was a thin gap over the wind from where I could hear the sound of his heavy breathing. I froze. There was no more than 1 foot between us. The car encapsulated me as I lay hidden beneath the backseat clutter, forming myself into an object, trying my hardest to be unnoticeable, unmoving, and simply not there. I see you, said a 40-year-old man in a perverse baby talk. Imagine when you were playing hide and seek and one of your friends tricks you into coming out. He said it in that tone of voice, as if baiting me, like he was questioning whether the clutter in the back seat was just clutter or a person. I didn't want to move or check the window. I remained a statue. My body reacted by minimizing my breath so much that I felt paralyzed. I dared not to look. My eyes fixated on the back of the passenger seat. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My heart was pounding so hard, it shook my body with each throb. Drops of sweat covered my forehead as I lay there silently. He circled the car, and while circling, started to whistle a sinister tune. I felt like I was part of the car. I could feel him touch the trunk as he carefully pressed down on it, as if to test the alarm, as if to test me. I was in the middle of fight or flight. I couldn't do either without elevating danger. I was frozen and hoping to God he was bluffing. He circled the car again. The door handle to my right jiggled. He pulled it once, twice, thrice, and then stopped. He leaned on the window. The streetlight from the other side made his face visible for the first time. He had a chubby face with the freakiest eyes. His lips were drooling, and some of it got smeared on my glass window as well. He let out a huge, his white teeth shined like sharp steel. I see you. You can't hide. Same tone, but more aggravated and stressed. More convinced that he was trying to make that clutter move, revealing itself to be his expectations, that it was me. my muscles tensed like a cow before slaughter. He clicked on the glass with his bony index finger that had a filthy-looking red painted nail, and then slowly blinked his eyes, saying, "My name is Spooky Face. What's your name?" The voice changed. My mind forced a visual. It wasn't anything human. I was already accepting my death. I was ready to be shot in the head, ready to take a life-changing bullet. Multiple knife wounds, just to make this sleep bearable, not excruciating, as you drain me of life. I wouldn't know how to react. My thoughts grew dimmer. I imagined my friend waking up in the next morning after a calm night of safe and sound sleep, only to discover my mutilated, defiled, and bloodied body hanging outside my car door. It was then I heard nothing but my own heartbeat. He was just staring at me in the middle of the night, talking to me like it wasn't abnormal at all. "You know I can see you, right?" What do you want?" "I want you to open the door so that we could both have a chat. You know, a friendly one." He smiled again, and I did my best not to shit my pants. I slowly got up and said, "Please, leave. I don't want any trouble." "You know I have a gun, right? Are you trying to force me to use it?" Suddenly, a loud siren of a cop car started to approach us, and the man got up in a blink, looked at the highway, and started to run back the same direction he came from. I don't know what happened until later. The cop came to my car, and it took me 15 minutes to grasp everything and get myself back to normal breathing. Once I came out of the car, a cop came to me and said, "Are you all right, mister?" How did you... I called them. I saw the store owner walking over to us at a fast pace, so the owner saw the man standing outside my car with a gun, and he called the cops. He had no idea I was in there. He thought the man was trying to steal from my car. I thanked him and everyone for coming to my rescue. I thank God that he left. I waited another hour until the sun shone hints of itself. I jumped in my front seat and bolted out of there, wide-eyed and sober. Till today, I wake up in a cold sweat, feeling like this hawk eyes are watching me from a window. I don't know where he is now and why he was being a jerk that day, but I just hope none of you ever meet that crazy psychopath. Because if you do, may God help you.